Here we go, episode number 2 of the Fallout television show entitled The Target. If you're not familiar with me or the channel, I am a video game super dork. I play a lot of video games, including the Fallout series. So when I saw that they were adapting one of my favorite series ever into the world of television, of course, I'm signing up for an episode by episode review. I will get into spoilers and I will talk about some of the fun little Easter eggs and nods to the game that I saw. We'll do that a little bit later in the video. But let's go ahead and get started and kind of talk about what is going on in the world and why it is so important to all the characters right now. So we start off with Wilzig. Now, he's played by Michael Emerson. You've probably seen him from Lost. He's the traditional creepy dude. He actually fits this role very well in this particular series because he is playing a scientist from the Enclave. Now, the Enclave are a group of people who were basically pre-U.S. government prior to when the bombs fell. So you get a really nice look at kind of that deep conspiracy theory, hiding aliens, hiding bodies, manipulating everybody with the Vault experiments, having control over what Vault-Tec turned into. Still, after all the bombs have fallen, still after the world is seemingly in complete shambles and rubble, the Enclave is still out there trying to pick up the pieces and to manipulate everything. They are a major, major antagonist in a lot of the Fallout games. We will probably hear more of them by name later on. They were just introduced today, but it's very clear that's who we're dealing with. Wilzig is working on some sort of fancy computer chip that he injects into his neck, and things go south very quickly in Enclave headquarters, and he and his dog companion, who I'm going to call Dog Meat. I don't know if it is the Dog Meat, obviously, if this is canonical. This guy has been dead for a very, very long time when the show starts, but we're going to go ahead and assume that Dog Meat is reincarnated somehow. But his dog-like companion and him escape and go out into the unknown. So we lose track of them for a while, and then we cut to Lucy. Now, Lucy is just starting to get her feet wet in the world. She's starting to understand that things aren't as nice and shiny and polished and proper as they were in the Vault, and she's having a lot of kind of come to Jesus moments as she walks through and sees dilapidated buildings, and she experiences and witnesses some of the weird violence and some of the weird costumes that people wear and some of the weird people she comes across. She is starting to realize that this is not quite what she thought it would be. And she's a great character because she still has that Goody Gumdrops kind of persona to her, but she's starting to build that hardened edge ever so slightly, which is good. She is still definitely the character in which we will experience most of the world for the first time. Most likely, Lucy will be in all those scenes of things that don't make sense to us as an audience, because she'll kind of be our gateway into that world. So we're going to experience what Lucy experiences, and we're going to basically observe everything through her. And that follows suit with from the first episode. It continues here. Obviously now far removed from the Vault, living out in the land amongst the wilds, beginning to learn what life is like there. Meanwhile, Maximus is with Paladin Titus. Paladin Titus is incredibly demeaning to Maximus. Decides he wants to drop off early from going on a mission to find Wilzig because he wants to go shoot stuff because he's bored. They find an irradiated cave, and inside is a Yao Gai, which is those really giant mutated bears. You fight them pretty extensively in a lot of the Fallout games, but it just goes to show how powerful the radiation was, and the enemies and the environment that adapted into life even after the radiation are insanely tough. I mean, think of this guy head to toe in T-60 power armor, giant metal plates, giant, massive double barrel like chain gun, and he dies. He succumbs to his injuries fighting against a bear because the bear's smacking him around and biting him and like shaking into him and knocking him over. They're that violent. Ultimately, Maximus comes to the rescue and does headshot the bear. Unfortunately, he decides, or fortunately for us, depending on how you look at it, he decides to let Paladin Titus die, saying that you don't deserve to wear that armor. And then he takes the mantle. He actually goes around and starts introducing himself as Paladin Titus. And he is now the newest member of the Brotherhood of Steel. His thoughts are if he can go find Wilzig and bring him back, he will be blessed into the Brotherhood as a proper knight, not one that just kind of scavenged armor from his dead buddy, right? So we'll see how that storyline progresses. And then lastly, we have the Ghoul, who doesn't really have a lot of story development this week, but has a lot of action scenes. He's just hanging out in the town of Philly, where they will all end up meeting here very, very soon. He's just relaxing, looking around, and out of the corner of his eye, there's Wilzig, and he's like, hey, how about that? Lucky day, lucky me. And hell ensues. So I'll pause there for a moment and say that the town of Philly itself, obviously, not Philadelphia, right? We know that this is on the other part of the world, but the idea is that, you have these structures that have kind of been built organically. They take on a very metallic like look and feel. And that's one of the aesthetics I love about the Fallout show, and I love about the video games, is that you could tell that things have been adopted and molded and formed over time, unlike a house that you would live in now that has got very proper and discrete production materials and a plan. This is just kind of thrown together haphazardly, and then people just kind of settle around it because it's all they have. There's a lot of references to Megaton, definitely, from Fallout 3 in this world. You have the stacked cars that kind of act as the kind of perimeter of the building. You have lots of kind of broken down boards and haphazard railings and signs and things that are pieced together, almost out of like a ransom note in a magazine, where you see all the individual letters like spell out the names of the stores. Some of the vendors walking around are wearing some questionable things. I saw people wearing just weird kind of underwear, high heels, spike collars, bird cages on their head. You have all different kinds of people out there. The idea is that society has gone mad. People are nuts. There's no semblance of like presenting yourself anymore. But additionally, you get what you get. So if you're walking around naked and you find a pair of Daisy Dukes, but you're a guy, you're going to put them on because it's better than being naked. That's just the world we live in now. So you're seeing a lot of that culture clash between Lucy with kind of proper wearing her vault jumpsuit with her hair all nice and a ponytail, nice backpack, all rolled up in her kit, ready to go and off and have a great adventure. Meanwhile, you're having people who are fighting and scavenging for cans of beans and rice and cram, which is their version of Spam, amongst other things, fighting against rad roaches and Yao guys and ghouls and that sort of thing. So very different worlds collide all in this town. When a massive shootout occurs, the Ghoul decides that he wants to take the bounty for himself. And of course, right in the nick of time, the newest member, Paladin Titus, Maximus himself, doesn't have a gun, but he decides he's going to intervene, and a massive firefight ensues. The Ghoul, there is an open bounty for him at this point because of the Ma June, who's kind of the resident village hen, essentially like the old lady. She puts a bounty out against the Ghoul because she is trying to help Wilzig. She seems to know more than she's leading on. She isn't just a simple store owner, right? But we don't really know the details about that. But what we do know is the Ghoul decides that he is going to basically eradicate anyone and anything in his way, and a massive, gory firefight ensues. The end result is that Maximus kind of succumbs somewhat to his injuries against the Ghoul. He gets his suit all cut up and kind of broken. The Ghoul seemingly has, I wouldn't say infinite life, but he takes numerous direct shots and he is unfazed at all. So we're starting again, as I mentioned earlier. You're starting to see that the world isn't quite what you think it is. And if you have that irradiated chemical or irradiated blood, it makes you very powerful. So the Ghoul is able to take direct shots and he's fine. He just walks away. Meanwhile, there's corpses all around him. So he's going to be very tough to defeat. And again, just showing how nasty the world is. Lucy does escape with what's left of Wilzig. He gets his leg blown off. There's a really funny little nod to Jim's limbs which is a funny little amputee kit, essentially, for people who have their legs blown off. They sew a little metal leg on him, and off he hobbles into the sunset. He ultimately does die. But right before he dies, he instructs Lucy to take his head, because obviously the chip that we mentioned at the beginning of this episode is in there, and she's going to need it for something. It's also her gateway to meet the person who has taken her father. So a lot of Fallout is a very serendipitous game. If you look at any of the Fallout games, it's the right place at the right time, people stumbling into each other that knows somebody that knows somebody. Lucy doesn't want to change the fate of the world. Lucy could care less about the fate of the world. Lucy wants to find her father. It just so happens her father is kidnapped by somebody who has an open bounty against an Enclave scientist who has some sort of secret serum, who's being chased by a guy in a power armor suit who's trying to prove himself, who's being chased by a ghoul who wants to make more money. So you already have this just crazy kind of soup of all of these characters who just magically stumble into an element together. You just have to roll with the punches here. Fallout games do this all the time. It's just par for the course of all the characters just kind of stumbling into something together via dumb luck. And that's exactly what happens here. So when the smoke clears at the end of the episode, we are once again introduced to good old Dogmeat. He is now, or she, I should say, this variant of Dogmeat is a woman, is going to hang out with the ghoul for a while. The ghoul is going to use the Dogmeat senses to go find Wilzig, because that's how the ghoul is going to get back. Maximus is kind of floating around there. He'll probably stumble into Lucy on his own very soon. Lucy obviously about to cut off the head of Wilzig to try to take it back to figure out more secrets of, where her father is located. So the three characters are they all intersected briefly, and now they're all kind of scattering, and then we'll see them all reconvene probably in the next episode. I thought it'd be fun to end these episodes with some fun nods to the game. So I'm going to do some rapid-fire Easter eggs here. The first was, did you notice the bobblehead in Ma June's Sundry Shop? That is the same bobblehead that you find in all of the Fallout games. Picking those up will give you points towards your special, which is your stats, basically, which is really cool to see it. I was hoping Lucy would pick it up and say, I feel smarter, or I feel stronger, but they didn't kind of break that fourth wall, but it was definitely there for fans to notice. Did you notice the cockpit in the plane of inside the town of Philly, just like in Megaton? There's a lot of design from Megaton's town that carried over to Philly. The details, the aesthetics, the clientele, the little kind of shops and everything scattered around. It was eerily similar, which was really, really cool. They borrowed a lot of great elements because it's such a great level design. It's so cool to see them kind of roll that into their universe. We got Sea Iguana Bits by name. Who doesn't love some tasty iguana bits? One of the cheapest, most radiated, infested foods you can get in Fallout very early on to get you going. Rad roach meat, which we did see a rad roach, and iguana bits. So they were making an appearance today. That was awesome. I mentioned earlier, but we also saw Cram, which is their version of Spam. So continuing to pay tribute to the source material with fun little Easter eggs and bits there. We also saw the power of the stim pack. You actually saw a stim pack. Looks exactly like the stim pack in the game. This stim pack is god tier stuff. You get shot, take a stim pack. You get your leg blown off, take a stim pack. Doesn't matter. You get hurt, stim pack will save you. Or in the case of Maximus and Paladin Titus, don't give him a stim pack and watch him die. We did see a little bit more of Vault-Tec with their kind of approved suicide pills that taste like bananas. And early on, Lucy actually stumbles across a family suicide. And she sees the pills on the counter, and she sees everybody, the baby still in the chair, the mom, the dad wearing her nice pearls, all that kind of stuff. A lot of people took the easy way out during the bombs and decided to commit mass suicide. And Vault-Tec was definitely behind that. There was an approved Vault-Tec method on how to kill yourself with special cyanide pills that we did see Wilzig actually pop at the end as well. And he did comment they do taste like bananas, so it is confirmed. And lastly, the ghoul's bullets looked a lot like mini nukes. Probably why when he shot things, they exploded in the most violent gibs I have ever seen. I love this episode. I thought it was phenomenal. I'm super excited to see where the series goes, and I'll be back again later on for my review of episode number 3. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.